Continuing on with our list of TV and video attribution methods, let's go back to the macro column and talk about another time series approach. And when I say time series in this case, it's less about model design and more about experimental design. How do we test and make changes to our environment to validate the impact that television is having, or at least to tell, is it having any effect whatsoever? So I want to talk now about dark periods, kind of a close cousin to pulsing. Essentially, it's one pulse. So in my prior video, we talked about how you pulse television on and off, and then look for site fluctuations in relation to those pulsing. But you could also do dark periods as well. So let's say that, again, this is a drive to web campaign direct response. This is time, and we're looking at site traffic or users on our site. So one of the techniques that we often use to validate television's impact or help to calibrate other models is simply to have dark periods in our campaign. Because if you're always on, particularly if you're using methods that modeling methods that require calibration, it's going to be hard to know, to be able to validate, is the television having the impact that we think it's having. And so let's say that we have TV on here. A lot of times it's very helpful to turn TV off at particular periods of time. Maybe not for like your entire campaign. If this is an international campaign, it might just be for a handful of countries. If it's a US only campaign, it might be for just a handful of DMAs. It could be, at a national level. You have to be careful with time though, because you don't want to do it during your seasonal increases and decreases in traffic. But having TV off for a period has some utility, because what we can see, let's say this is your normal site traffic. We're looking to see, is there any type of drop off? And usually this window here, you want it to be, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks minimum. But we want to see, is there any type of a tapering off over time? And then similarly, when we turn TV on, do we see any type of an increase there? I'll be honest to you. So usually I'll do this as pulsing. Pulsing is really just replicating these dark periods multiple times, because you kind of need a bunch of at-bats to have corroborating evidence that I'm looking at, that whatever I saw here was valid and not due to some other external circumstances. But what I use these for is I actually like looking at this here, the decay period. So there's a lot of modeling approaches where we need to have a coefficient for that decay, some type of a factor to represent what that tail effect of television is, and similarly, to a less extent, how quickly it increases. It's really decay that we're most interested in here. And a lot of times we'll use this as part of other methods, such as post-spot lift analysis, where we need to have some type of a multiple for tail effect. We can use these off periods to help set and calibrate those other modeling methods that have inputs related to this time decay. It also helps us to just establish, hey, is television still having any impact at all? Because I would expect to see some decline. Imagine if you see no decline whatsoever and you do this multiple times. That tells us something about our television ads. At a minimum, it's telling us that relative to the magnitude of traffic on our site, the ad impact is small. Again, relative to that baseline of traffic that we already have. So I hope this has been helpful. I would suggest looking at some of the other videos for how this data gets incorporated into more sophisticated measurement methods for television.